Welcome to Q&A Selling Online, with answers to questions about creating an online empire, promoting products, or building a brand. Your host, private label and e-commerce entrepreneur, Quinn Amorm.
Welcome back, my friends. For those who haven't heard the last time he was here, Brent started AMZ Pathfinder in 2015. His friend was selling on Amazon, and he knew Brent had experience with Amazon, so he invited him over to help him out. And from this relationship, he ended up building and founding AMZ Pathfinder, and that is Brent Zahradnik. Brent, how's it going?
It's going pretty well. I'm considering everything going on in the world. I'm doing very well. Very fortunate here. So happy to join you today.
Nice. So you're in France right now. You're staying home due to the virus?
Yeah, we have fairly restrictive lockdown here in France in terms of just movement and what we're able and not able to do. And I'm trying to respect that to the letter of the law as best I can, especially since I'm a foreigner living here, an immigrant, and don't want to run afoul of the military police. So being a good boy.
So how do you do that? You have to leave every 6 months?
No, I have a long-term visa personally. I have to renew that every year, but depending on my soon-to-be situation with my partner here, we might be getting a more serious commitment going. So that would change that situation. But essentially, I'm totally legal here, no worries. But with my mediocre French, I don't want to get in any sticky situations with the police. So trying to stay on my nose, keep my nose out of it.
Yeah, so that explains why when you search for your name followed by LinkedIn, we always get a FR version, which is the French version.
Interesting.
And I was so surprised. I'm like, I always get English. Why is that? So, yeah. So in order to get your English version, I have to search your name in LinkedIn.
Oh, interesting. No one's ever told me that before, but it makes sense. I think my profile is probably set up but maybe incorrectly. I'm not like a LinkedIn pro. That's maybe one thing I should put some time into as we're all locked down here, is optimizing that a little bit. Yeah.
So
it seems to be really popular these days. Everybody and their brother's on LinkedIn. Yeah.
Oh yes, man. I'm pretty big on LinkedIn. I've been using it for many years and have like 16,000 followers and 15,000 connections.
Wow.
And it's very powerful.
Yeah.
It's very powerful because you can, depending on who you connect to, LinkedIn is going to give you, show you other connections that are related to the same thing. So if you're connected with Amazon sellers, everybody that LinkedIn is going to show you are other Amazon sellers, right? So that's how their algorithm works. So all your audience becomes super relevant to you. And if you do it properly. Now, there's a lot of people that add everybody just so they can get, a huge amount of connections, and that may actually ruin the relevancy of your audience, right?
Yeah, we've all received the messages that are like kind of a cold pitch. Some of them are actually quite good, and I'll engage with the person because I understand what they're doing as a B2B business owner. Like, I get it. And there's a few times I've engaged with those people in a more serious capacity, or even bought a service or something. But there's a lot of noise as well. So
lots of noise. Yeah,
lots of noise.
So how's business?
Things are fairly stable. I'm happy to report. So in general, our biggest concern would be outcomes for clients, right? So how are the clients doing? And I'm sure that all the people who listen to this involved with some way in the Amazon world have had some sort of effect or impact on the business. I would say a good 30% of our clients from the advertising side have had a growth or even an explosive, increase in sales, thanks to whatever markets they're in. Not necessarily, face masks or whatever, which I think you can't even buy now on Amazon, right? They just decided to put the kibosh on that. But things that are more conducive to the new hierarchy of needs that consumers have being stuck at home, whatever that may be. And of course, that depends on country and states and the US and everything. But in general, some of them have seen a big bump, which has been interesting. An interesting time because typically, February, March, some of the slower months on Amazon.
Yeah, and all of your customers are advertising customers like PPC, sponsored ads? Yeah.
Yeah. 100% are engaging on advertising. Some of them also do like storefront build outs with us. And one thing we're doing now as well is DSP. We're just in the early stages of restarting that, Amazon's display network. I mean, that's advertising too. It's just a different kind. But all of them are running, Seller Central and Advertising Console ads in some form or another. And the majority of our clients are still North American based, but we have a pretty large percentage that are European companies too. So we get to see a lot of the other markets as well.
Do you find there was a lot of customers that stopped advertising during this situation?
That is a really good question. I think the answer is yes. First of all, yes, and I think that that's a bit misguided because in my kind of reckoning of the situation, barring a situation where you have no stock available or Amazon has straight up like prohibited you from selling, I think pausing your ads entirely is not the right choice. I think that really carefully assessing and being realistic with yourself about what the demand for your products is going to be within the next couple months and where your stock inventory levels are going to be, because obviously people are having trouble sending things in, to Amazon. And I think 3PLs are even getting a bit overwhelmed because there's a sudden, explosion of interest from a lot of Amazon sellers. Maybe you can tell me about that because I think you probably know more about that than I do. But I think pausing ads entirely is not the way to do it. However, in our data, we have a pretty good, top-down view of all of our accounts together, like in aggregate. We have a piece of software we use for that. And we can see definitely the cost per click has decreased by, I would say 5 to 8%, like across the board average. In some marketplaces, much more. And I can get into some other stats too that I've kind of put together. I got them on my second screen here. But I would say that people have definitely stopped advertising. And it's maybe due to suddenly they have a terrible ACOS and it spooked them, and they in the first 2 weeks there, they panicked and they just said, let's stop. Might be due to cash flow issues. That's one thing we have to pay close attention to with clients, or just inventory, because they didn't expect that all of a sudden they would be having Christmas halfway through March. They didn't think that would happen, which is reasonable. No one expected that. So
there's two situations. One is like it's like Christmas in March, like you said. Yeah. And the other one is the people that are selling the impulsive buy things that are not essential, that now not only they can't restock, but at the same time, the demand did not go up, right? There's things that I cannot understand, that demand has grown so much. And one of them everybody knows is toilet paper. I cannot understand it.
No, me neither. Yeah.
But there's other things that had a really big growth because of the virus, or coincidentally during this time, that I can't understand. But there's definitely others that have reduced really, really big time, right? And to your comment about the FBM, I cannot figure it out. When it comes to the FBA, everything has been perfect until now. And when it comes to the FBM, like a lot of sellers, like you mentioned, are trying now to they're starting to fulfill their own. And of course, I can't fulfill my own in the States personally. So I have a third-party fulfillment company, the one that stores all my stuff before it even goes to Amazon. And I cannot get them to get it right. Is it just me, or man, they cannot ship within 24 hours. They cannot update Amazon where Amazon needs the tracking number. They miss shipments. And I'm dealing with a big fulfillment company. So does everybody else, I don't know, everybody else, you guys listening, does it run smoothly for you? Or because I'm afraid of doing FBM that Amazon is going to strike my account.
That's a reasonable fear. I think some of these companies are more modern than others, and some of them maybe have been running an old school way for years and it's worked, and maybe the owners don't see a need to change, and then they get stuck in their ways. I mean, we have a client that actually has a fulfillment service, and we know that they're Amazon sellers. We work with their account. They do very well. And furthermore, their fulfillment service is set up and geared towards other Amazon companies because they understand the needs of those companies. And they know that Amazon has very high standards. famously there's what's it called? Seller fulfilled Prime, SFP, right?
Yes.
That program,
Yeah.
which is now, I believe, on pause. But I think that's at an account by account basis. I don't think that's like based on the warehouse, but a lot of these warehouses have SFP capabilities. And those people, I think, are probably doing the best right now. If you had some stock there, able to get it, that's an interesting move.
Yeah. I wonder if it's like their business just grew overnight, like everything else. And now instead of having 2 or 3 customers doing FBM, they have 100,000 and maybe they
Right.
can't keep up.
Exactly. Yeah. And who knows, maybe some of those warehouse employees, at the end of the day, there's actual physical, people in the stacks, picking and packing stuff at Amazon and at other warehouses. And I have friends who have worked at Amazon. I have friends who work at other warehouses. I'm talking to one of them just 30 minutes ago here on like a Facebook chat. He works at a warehouse back in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
And he was telling me about, 15 people have been, fallen ill at his warehouse with COVID. And now it's like, what do we do next? It's a really tough scenario because it's like, do they still work? Are they going to get laid off? Is they going to be furloughed? And it's a big discussion ongoing in the US clearly and other places. But yeah, there's a lot of things that could go wrong to not get a package to you. So I think,
you can't work from home doing that.
No, absolutely not. Yeah. It's one of the reasons crossing my fingers and going, I'm glad I'm in an online industry. I've been telling this to my team and other people, but I feel like the remote work revolution is now about 10 years ahead of where it was like two months ago. I feel like things are moving in this direction. More and more people are figuring out, more and more companies, I should say, are figuring out, we actually don't need to fly everybody everywhere for business meetings and get everybody in the office at the same time all the time. It's nice. I mean, I enjoy that when I work in that environment too. And when we have team meetups, it's awesome, but maybe not all the time. We don't need to spend $20,000 for a floor of a building in downtown Philadelphia, right? So maybe we can just not do that. And I think that the remote work revolution has come early now. Everyone's realizing it. Yeah. And Zoom is benefiting tremendously, right? Like we talked about before we started recording.
Yeah, immensely. So listen, you mentioned about pausing ads. That's another thing that sometimes worries me. If for whatever reason I have to pause an ad, I always, and I have not tested this, but I always think in the back of my mind that when I turn it back on, it's not going to be the same. Now, is there any truth to this?
It depends on the duration, right? So if you pause it for like a weekend, and we do this for some clients, we have campaigns that shut off over the weekend. That's fine. Yeah, that's okay. But if you're going to be pausing that for a period of weeks, I would think there's probably going to be a different performance coming out the other side of that, because the recent sales history, conversion data, all that stuff matters. So I would say instead of looking at it holistically as like campaign, and then is campaign paused or not paused? What I've been encouraging the team to do and think more in the direction of is rather, keywords, right? Because campaigns are just the container for the keywords, and keywords are the things that are spending. More specifically, the search terms are the things that are getting the sales. So now is really the time to examine things on a keyword level. And I think maybe use more and more tight match types, things that are auto and broad inside Amazon. You got to really consider relevance and where people are in the sales funnel at this point. It might be smarter to migrate more of your spend into phrase and, more specifically exact match in this time. That's what I think personally. And that's what we've been trying to do. Those exploratory terms, like just to give a really basic example, say like at home fitness, a lot of people are searching for home gym. And one of our clients, I've noticed that search term in particular has just exploded in a couple of campaigns, and we've been blocking it out and setting negatives and everything. But home gym is very general, right? Someone could be looking for anything like free weights, elastic bands, one of those like ab rollers. There's all kinds of stuff I'm sure is selling very well right now. And if you sell those things, 3 months ago might have been a great time to have home gym in there at 30 cents. But, now maybe that's not the case because there's just so many more people on Amazon who are like first time shoppers too. And they're just browsing around, clicking around. We've seen conversion rates drop. Obviously going to have to test that in an individual basis, but that's my just off the top of the head example.
Yeah. And, touch base on what you said about search volumes growing for certain things. And until now, I don't know if there was another way, but the way I used to track search volume in the past, right? For example, you can always see with certain tools, you can always see what the estimated search volume is for something today. But I couldn't unless I had searched for something, let's say in January, I wouldn't know what to compare it to. And coincidentally, two days ago at the time of this recording, Helium 10 launched that new search volume over time tool. Did you see that?
I have not used that. Now I want to try it out because we just use brand analytics all the time to look at different week time periods. Maybe they're just pulling that data somehow and mashing it up.
Yeah, probably. So now, I mean, you can see the graph that shows you the sales growth or decrease. Sure. And now I put them side by side with the search volume so we can actually see if the sales growth of a certain ASIN, like a competitor's ASIN, if it was due to external campaigns or if it was really related to Amazon search increase, right? Mm-hmm. So,
right.
Yeah, that's pretty cool now.
Like a rising tide lifts all boats kind of idea, right?
Yeah. So
because if you're selling puzzles right now or bread machines or whatever, of course your sales are going to blow up. It's nothing, you don't need to run a single campaign probably.
Yeah.
I mean, you probably should, but you might not need to if you're going to stock out in 3 days or whatever. So.
Yeah, that's a good point. So those that are about to stock out and their sales are growing very fast, because that happened to me in one of the brands. People wanted, and there was a big issue with it, was that those increased sales, I'm talking about probably 3x the volume maybe. And I mean, it grew so fast that we were getting, I don't know if you measure the so-called tacos, like so we were getting so many organic sales from it that our tacos was like high time low. What do you call it? It was record
all-time low. Yeah. Yes. So basically the sales, the ad spend versus the organic weighting was so small, which is good. Usually that's a good thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And we were still spending the exact same amount daily on ads. It's just, but the thing was, I knew it was going to run out. And because the supplier couldn't fulfill me, right? I could still send to Amazon because it was considered essential, and it still is, but the supplier cannot give me any more.
Great.
And that was the issue. So it screw up our timeline, and because of that, we ended up running out of stock. And I mean, even the cost per click had decreased. Did you notice that on? Yeah, so it must.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we've seen that across. Like I said before, was it like 5 to 7% decreases overall? And then some accounts, I heard it put a really good way on another podcast. It was like the thrive or dive. Like, is your market diving or is it thriving? Right. I really like that. That's from the Ad Badger podcast, Ad Badger Den. But they talked about this idea, thrive or dive, and we definitely have clients that are thriving or diving, depending on what the market is. So a lot of them do have competitors that have just said, this is too much for me, I'm out, or I'm stocked out, I'm done. And then, of course, that means less players in the game. The bid environment is less competitive. So, yeah, the cost per click goes down.
Yeah, man, oh, man. It's at times like this that we learn that just having the one supplier, for example, if you're dealing with supplements, that supplier has to come from North America, or, I don't get supplements from China. But man, when you're North American supplier and there's one in Canada, one in the USA, and neither one of them can supply you with anything, your mind starts going crazy. Like, where else can I get them? Because this is right. These are the $1 million months, and no, you can't get enough.
And those relationships can take. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, they can take months to establish depending on what you need and what the spec for it is and where it's coming from, especially if it's coming from overseas, Asia in particular. It takes a long time. As I understand it, air freight is incredibly expensive right now. I was talking to a client yesterday. They're considering flying some things over, and it's like, no, the price doesn't work anymore.
Yeah. What we used to do or still do, because it still hasn't changed, but is try to get, for example, if you have one manufacturer that supplies you with some sort of vitamin, every time I need to order, let's say if I'm going to order 50,000 units, I do not order 25 from one guy, 25 from another one. I give all 50 to one because you get the better price. But that is what came back to bite us, is because you give all your orders to one vendor or one manufacturer, when things get tight, right, the other guy is not going to give me preference because the rest of the year I didn't go to them.
Right. You give them a cold shoulder.
Exactly. I mean,
so there's a benefit to that, but there's a little bit of fragility built into it. Is what,
if things like this happen. So
sure, yeah.
In the future, I don't know how we're going to fix that situation if it needs fixing, because I don't know if there's going to be another COVID-19 or the COVID-20 or whatever other 25 coming every year now.
Right. Yeah. I mean, a lot of people I know who are in like more in the like investing space, who deal with like markets. They're a lot of them are calling this like a black swan event. You familiar with this term, black swan?
I heard of it, but I'm not sure what it is.
It basically means like an event that can't really be foreseen, but still has a small percentage chance of happening. But if it does happen, it has potentially catastrophic effects. I might be kind of defining it as slightly incorrectly, but it's an event that's incredibly rare, like a black swan. You don't see a black swan very often. And so this idea is there's a lot of risk in a black swan event. And so we're undergoing that right now. This is what's happened to markets. And, Amazon's definitely part of that. So try as they might, even Amazon's the invincible Amazon is having a hard time dealing with it, right? Have you been on their homepage recently? I went today just before this call to check, and they're still not promoting any physical products at all on the homepage, which is one of the most valuable websites on the internet. I mean, let's be clear, like the homepage of Amazon, if there's something on there, it's going to get attention. And then what else? Yeah, I've heard that they have, I haven't seen this email, but I've heard from multiple people who own these websites. People have those affiliate websites for Amazon links and stuff. I've heard that they have sent emails out and told people to slow down on like the promotions because they just want less and less physical products being sold because they just can't keep up with the demand, and the system's under such a burden. It's amazing. Never heard of that before.
Yeah, it's incredible. I saw this is completely unheard of, but this was just yesterday. Somebody posted a screenshot of the Amazon homepage on Facebook, and they were advertising a Dodge Ram pickup. Yeah.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
Yes. And that was going on. It was shared on Facebook. I'm like, wow, this is incredible. It's a great opportunity for Dodge, and very smart to do that. And but man, I didn't even know you could sell pickup trucks on Amazon.
Yeah, I think if you're a big enough brand, I mean, we all know like so I mentioned this earlier. DSP is the demand side platform, Amazon's display ads, and I'm sure that Dodge and whatever else has these kind of agreements with Amazon at a much bigger level through Amazon advertising. That's that's many tiers above where we're playing at my agency with medium small businesses. Like someone like a Dodge has the budget to do that, and I'm sure that car sales are probably down right now. I mean, I have a good friend who's a car salesman, and he's not even working. So I'm pretty sure that things are rough. But maybe they got a good deal on that front page because Amazon's certainly going to be missing their quarterly estimates for income from ads. I mean, no doubt, with all these people kind of pulling out of the game, cost per click's down, sales are definitely down for some people. I think that they're going to miss for sure.
Yeah. So in the last week or so, I've been getting a really, really high rejection rate on video ads. Could it be related to the situation, or is Amazon more strict now with the videos? Because they're like less than 45 seconds, no URLs on the video, nothing.
Yeah.
And I mean, at one point they started with the first half second was like white screen, and I know they don't like that. So they
don't like that, or the end. Yeah.
Yeah, we removed that, and we're still getting high rejection rate. And
did they give you a reason, by the way?
Yeah, until we edit the first half second of white screen, they would give that reason, and since then, no reason. Just your ad was rejected.
Okay, because we've been having success getting them through, but what we've noticed is since they've opened it up to desktop, because it was mobile only for a while, we've actually seen the performance of them kind of drop off. So there's more ad slots that are on desktop, and I think that they are further down the page or even at the bottom of the page. So then the impressions are going to be maybe a little bit less prominent, less valuable. And there's one way to combat that, which is I don't have it in front of me right here, but in sponsored brands, which is where the video is now. It's part of the sponsored brands, like family of ads you can make. You can do that bid modification by placement thing, which is a little bit different than the sponsored products one. But you can turn that on and you can say decrease bids by 99% for placements that are not top of search. Mm-hmm. So basically what you're doing is saying, okay, if we're bidding $1, then I want to bid 1 cent for these other placements. And that's going to focus you on the top of page. Unfortunately, there's no way for us to break it out by device or platform, rather, like mobile. But we saw really good performance of those with mobile. We've seen it slip. I mean, it could also be due to just the general crappiness of the market in some marketplaces. Yeah. And the other thing we noticed is that they have a bid minimum now, so you can't bid less than 25 US cents for those.
Oh, I never tested that.
On a keyword basis, because the right thing to do right now, and this is a whole nother discussion, but if your conversion rates are really suffering, you have to go and adjust your CPC bids. That's the right action step for a lot of these problems people are encountering when they've got the conversion rate dropped by 25% due to shipping times or whatever. And so you can't get it down below 25 US cents. I've had 2 people in my team report that to me Thursday this week. We had a discussion about it. But sometimes we'll put it real low instead of pausing it, or sometimes it makes sense. It'll still pick up a sale here or there if we put it at 21 cents or something. But nope, 25 is the floor. So for whatever reason.
I want to ask you about often Amazon invites us to beta testing something new. So you probably get invited to same things or other different ones. Mm-hmm. Is there anything that works for abandoned carts yet? Like remarketing to abandoned carts?
Yeah. The only thing I can think of that's like within Amazon's suite of advertising would be display ads. I know I've touched on this a couple times already. So sponsored display is showing up in a lot of accounts now, and that's a very, very, very watered down version of the ad inventory that's available through DSP. And DSP has a whole world of like targeting options and audience building options. I'm actually doing a little bit of that this weekend because we're starting with some more clients with that. But essentially, you can do retargeting, remarketing through display ads, and you can say like, let's do Amazon O&O, which is owned and operated. So you're doing it on Amazon and IMDb and maybe a couple other sites that Amazon's affiliated with, and that's going to hit people who have seen your page, have visited your page. And there's an option there for people who have bought in the past. There may be an option for people who have added to cart. I actually don't know, but I'm sure that there's something similar, quite similar to it.
Yeah, I mean, those I've tried, but everything we've done with sponsored display has not given us good results.
Yeah, I would say about 15% of the time it works well for us.
Okay, because the number of impressions, for one, is minimal. And then, I mean, the ACOS is not there. There's no
sky high.
Yeah. And while outside of Amazon, it's the other way, right? It seems like everybody that you retarget on Facebook is a little bit of a warmer audience, so they actually convert better. The impressions are still lower, but they convert better. While here, it doesn't happen. So let
me ask you something quick. Do you guys have the CPM or the CPC available through sponsored display? Because we have some clients that have the beta, so they have CPM through sponsored display. So they just pay per 1,000 impressions. They don't pay per click.
Oh.
Yeah, and we found that to be a better model, but only some clients have that available. Not all of them do. And I don't know if there's a real pattern to which do and which don't.
Yeah, mine is all CPC. I never saw CPM.
Yeah, if you see that, give that a shot. That tends to be cheaper and works better because then you're not paying for the clicks. I mean, you're just paying for the impressions. So you can bid lower in our experience, and the actual ROI might work out better. But you gotta be real selective about what products you do for that too. Typically, they're like the hero products. They have a lot of visibility, a lot of sessions, and they have a bigger group of people to kind of retarget to if that's what you're doing.
Nice. So now I want to ask you about something that it's on AMZ Pathfinder.
Yeah.
The way you charge your customers is a low fee and then 1% of the non-branded advertising revenue. I don't know what that means.
Okay, yeah, let me explain. So yeah, we do, for most clients, we still do that. We do flat fees too if clients are uncomfortable with any kind of percentage. Some of them just like a flat fee. But the majority of clients are still on the percentage-based model. And the non-branded, people always ask about that one. I've tried for years to figure out how to make it better to explain. But essentially, let's say that your brand is, I don't know, Quinn's sandals, because you got a beach in back of you right now. Quinn's sandals. And people are searching Quinn's sandals on Amazon, and they're trying to go for that brand. And if we have branded campaigns going, obviously those are going to be the best, revenue per click, lowest ACOS terms, right? That's a given. And that's based on the strength of your brand that you have built, the business has built over the years. That has nothing to do with our advertising pro skills, right? So the idea is we would take that revenue from Quinn's sandals and related terms, and we remove that from the percentage, and then we do the multiplication simple, and then we charge with the flat fee plus the percentage, but we remove that branded revenue. For some of our clients, branded revenue is like, 15, 20% each month. And, this is an ongoing discussion, is like, how much do you want to spend against brand? Maybe it's only a little bit of money. Maybe your brand is so strong that you don't need to reinforce it. Or maybe your brand is now, suddenly we're seeing more and more branded searches in the data. And so we should increase the brand spend and, make sure we're owning that space and keeping competitors off it. That's a whole nother discussion. But the idea is essentially, we're not going to piggyback on the success of your brand awareness and figure that into our model. It's just trying to align the incentives as best as possible. One thing I learned from one of my business partners is like, there's a win-win in every business situation, and you just got to work towards finding that win-win. So I thought, well, I think that a percentage of ad spend is a really stupid model. I don't like that. Flat fee works, but it's not so flexible. But this percentage model seems to work quite well. So that's what we settle on for most clients.
Yeah. Do you think there's any brand out there that doesn't have the need to reinforce their brand?
Maybe if they have absolutely no brand awareness, it wouldn't be worth it. But even then, I'd still run campaigns because, if there is someone looking for you specifically, you want to make sure they find you. That's my feeling. You're probably going to show up organically on the SERP anyway, but hey, why not? It's probably cheap too. Typically the CPC for brand is really low. Unless you got competitors gunning for you, but your relevance is going to be way better than theirs. So you're probably going to end up paying less. Your quality assessment in Amazon's auction is going to give you a lower cost. It should.
Yes. Yeah. And we still can advertise for our competitors' names, right? I know we can't have them on the listings, but we can still advertise our competitors' names, right? Yeah,
and that's unlikely to ever change. I mean, I worked in Google AdWords, now just Google Ads for years before I did this. And, advertising your competitors is fair game, man. No problem. All's fair. But obviously don't do anything like put them in the title, the back end. I remember years ago we had a client that put a bunch of competitor terms in the back end, and then they got slapped by Amazon. And I said, what happened? Like, I assumed they got attacked, black hat or something. Oh no, we just added a bunch of like competitor brand names. I was like, oh no, come on. And they said, what? You advertise for them? Yeah, those are two different things.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Years ago, remember Manny Coates had a podcast, AM/PM podcast?
Yes, that's now the Serious Seller one with
yes.
What's his name? Yeah, the other guy. I listened to it, yeah.
And
Bradley Sutton.
Years ago, Manny Coates actually did that, and he got slapped too because he had his competitors' terms in the back.
Live and learn.
Yes. All right. So how about that notification? Now everybody's getting, when logging into ad management in Seller Central, There's a notification that everything is going to change soon. And
yes. Oh, great point. Yeah. Yeah.
so you have to log in through what we used to call the AMS panel, but is now just Amazon's advertising.
Right. Advertising.amazon.com or .co.eu, whatever the case may be, wherever you are. Like I said, for a lot of clients in other markets, we just log in through DE or whatever it might be. And yeah, we have a good deal of clients that have advertising console. We just call it AC, presence. They've had it there for years. They got it back in the day when it was like easy to get into. Yeah. And I think this is actually a great move. I'm really, really excited for this because this is a problem probably like two other listeners you have share with me, but we take on clients, a couple every month. We want to onboard them. We want to get our people in their accounts. And so to do that, we have a secure password manager, and they have their passwords stored in that extension. They have two-factor authentication. They log in. The client has to invite them and set the permissions. It's a whole song and dance. And when you do that a couple times, it's cool, but like at scale, it's really hard. So if we need to invite like 4 or 5 people in their account, because one of them does the reporting, we have the person just strategy, we have the person who does the optimization, we have me, so I can make sure everything's good. It just becomes a nightmare. So what this new feature is going to have inside of Advertising Console, and we're actually already on the beta for this for a couple months now, is a thing called a manager account. So we have an AMZ Pathfinder manager account, and if I'm set as admin, I have a drop down in this dashboard with a bunch of different client accounts underneath it. Yeah. And I can easily remove and add people from my team to those accounts. Like I said, since Advertising Console is a much smaller piece of the puzzle right now, that's not super important. But once everything migrates, that'll make that whole adding and removing people process much, much, much easier. Furthermore, for security, I think this is huge because what we do when we talk to clients and people we do audits for is like, we need access to these 3 areas. And this is, reporting, advertising, reporting, advertising, and I guess inventory to a limited extent. Yeah. So give us these particular permissions because we don't want to see your credit card. We don't want to know about, other financial details you have. Like, we're not interested. From a security standpoint, we don't want to see it. We don't want access to it. So if we just have advertising access through this other login, that's going to greatly improve that problem too. So less security, kind of like surface area risk. Yeah. Is the way I see it. My only concern is that we won't be able to see things like inventory, all the data that we enjoy from business reports. We also download and combine with Excel macros and other tools like various reports from client accounts. So if we don't have access to those, the level of reporting detail that we have might drop off. So I'm a little bit worried about that. Yeah. We'll see. I'm in general, I'm like really pleased with it because I think Amazon's finally realizing that they're like one of the big players and they're putting all their resources behind making like a really truly good advertising platform where you have like manager accounts and nested management and you can see a dashboard with all your clients, like things that, Google did 15 years ago, basically. So I'm excited to finally see that.
Yeah, there's one way that may fix your problem, and it's something that we do. For example, let's say in Seller Central, I can give permissions to a different user. Mm-hmm. So I can, for example, if I have 4 or 5 of my remote staff that need to log in on an ongoing basis, I create one account. Mm-hmm. And then they log in through LastPass.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we use 1Password, which is almost exactly the same.
Okay. Yeah. And then with this LastPass, they don't even need to know the password that actually is the login to the site because LastPass logs them in with their own. And then they can all use one. For example, there's one account for me and then one for them. Is that something that works for you, or that's not what you meant?
No, I mean that would actually work. And back in the day, we used to do that. My feeling though is taking the slightly longer road, but the slightly more difficult road is the good move here. Because I always think about contingency plans. Like my feeling is that each person should have access to their own accounts and the things that they have responsibility for, and nothing more. Yeah. Because imagine someone goes rogue and they want to create damage, right? it limits the area they could create any damage. We've never had that happen. Not even close, thankfully. But just imagine, what are the different scenarios? What are the different outcomes? Or what if they just get hacked? I mean, a much more likely scenario that, they didn't use the VPN, they had a dodgy Wi-Fi and someone gets access. Thankfully, we use two-factor authentication, so that should also mitigate that. I went to school for like computer security stuff, so I have like some background in this from years ago. But basically, I think about the risk area, right? What's the potential risk area? How can we minimize it as much as possible? And so I think just giving people access to what they need to see in that alone is probably sufficient, even though it is more of a pain in the butt for sure.
Yeah, one of the things that I enforce with the team is actually password security. Not only with things that they got to log into within our brand, right? But with their personal email, because if one of my staff members has a personal email that is, let's say, their name, and it's very easy to crack within seconds with brute force, right? That person can send requests to their email that they have access to now to change passwords of other accounts. Right. So it's not, sometimes they think, okay, I'm going to have a strong password to log into, I don't know, let's say to my Zapier account, because they use my Zapier account.
Sure.
But I mean, in that case, the email wouldn't go to them. But every time that somebody requests I lost password, if that hacker has access to their email, they're going to get the new email for whatever tool. So I mean, it's so crazy that a lot of people still have like password as their password, or
just dog's name, their birth year, whatever it is. Yeah.
1, 2, 3.
Their first car. Girlfriend's last name. Whatever. Yeah. Things that are more socially engineering possible to crack, or just do a dictionary brute force, or like a rainbow hash against, or whatever it's called. I mean, that's a whole nother discussion, but I really recommend people use a two-factor authentication and not the one that goes to your phone, because also SIM cards and numbers can be hacked or changed too. You got to use the one-time pad one, the 6-digit code that changes every 30 seconds. Yeah. So any good password manager is going to have that feature built in, and so does 1Password, and that's the one we use. So if someone gets a hold of their SIM, and gets access to that won't change it either. That won't help them. So one less vector for attack or break-in.
Yeah, absolutely. So Brent, besides Amazon ads, do you run ads, external ads directed to Amazon?
No, we don't. We actually have people we can refer clients along to. Like I have a friend who's quite good at Facebook launches and advertising. That seems to be a big avenue these days. I know some people who do bot stuff specifically, like Facebook chat bots. Which I think is a little bit different than Facebook ads. AdWords, I mean, I have a friend who has an agency. They do AdWords stuff, but we don't really get a lot of requests for Google ads. But we don't really mess with that. No, we really stick within the Amazon ecosystem, and that's intentional on my part. I mean, my whole objective is like EU and Amazon ads. Those are the two kind of axes through which I see the company at this point and the direction of growth. So we don't do that.
What do you think is going to happen as soon as Amazon opens the gates again for everybody can restock? This seems like you're doing it very slowly now. Started a couple of days.
Yeah, my prediction is that they're not going to make an announcement, because I think that they don't want. I mean, imagine if they did. What's the most likely scenario? Everybody and their grandma sends everything they have, and then the warehouses have. I don't know if you saw these videos online, but the trucks parked outside and backed up outside of Amazon warehouses, like for like 3 kilometers or whatever.
No.
So they're just trying to get in, and that's like already happening. And there's some funny quirks with how truck drivers have their hours and stuff logged. So if they go over too much in one day, they have to actually wait for like 10 hours before they can work again. So that just exacerbates the problem. So I think they're actually going to continue to do like what we call a soft open, back at Apple. They're going to continue to just say like, okay, you can trickle in this and this restock and that resupply, because you can check your restock report or whatever it's called right now, and you can see things are available. I've been reading some threads on Reddit and stuff. People say, they can get a good percentage of their products in, but not everything.
Yeah, they're going to do. I love the term lazy loading. You know what that means? When
I don't know.
Oh, so it's a term when it comes to websites, and Amazon does that with pages too. And lazy loading is for example, Google loves speed.
Yeah, they do.
So certain websites are very heavy, and Google will measure how long it will take them to open that page. With lazy loading, they're going to load essential items. There you go. They'll load the essential things first, and everything that is heavy will load in the background after your customer can see the full page.
Okay.
Right? So sometimes if you open a Google, I don't know if you ever, or Amazon listing, and the image shows up right away, but it shows up still blurry, and then it clears up after a second. So I
have seen that.
Yeah, that's lazy loading. So they give you a display, and only after they perfect it, right? So I'm guessing that's what they'll do with when it comes to reopening. They'll do lazy loading.
Loading, essential only. Yeah, I mean the word essential has been used so much by me in the past couple of weeks to the team and the clients and everything, along with quarantine, all these other vocab that we're. If we had a word frequency counter for the words that come out of our mouths, I'd love to see the data on that.
Yeah, I mean, yes, we could do it now with certain tools that just type everything we say and then measure it at the end of the day. Yeah,
that's true. But I'm not ready for that level of intrusion in my life just quite yet.
Exactly. Who knows what's being recorded already?
Right.
Well, I know then over the last 40-something minutes, everything you said has been recorded. So maybe
as long as it's not used against me in court, I'm fine.
I'll get the VA to do a keyword density on what was said here.
Sounds good.
So Brent, where do you want people to find you? If they want to look for you, of course, AMZ Pathfinder is number one. Where else?
Yeah. We're we actually, by the time you put this out, we should probably have our new website up. We're working on a migration to a totally new WordPress theme and trying to expand our services pages a little bit to reflect what we actually do these days, because we do a few more things. So yeah, amzpathfinder.com, best website location on the internet. But you can find me on LinkedIn or Facebook too. We have an AMZ Pathfinder Facebook page. We're somewhat active on LinkedIn, as we established earlier. I'm not a pro, but you can find me and message me on there too. And I'm happy to, talk pretty much anyone about Amazon stuff. If you guys want to schedule a 30-minute call, happy to chew the fat. I got nothing but time here in France. We're all locked down. I can only go outside for 1 hour a day, despite it being incredibly beautiful here. But oh well.
Yeah, where I am is really beautiful, as you can see behind me, with my fake scenery. There's a foot of snow behind me. So, but I do go out every day with remote control monster trucks with my boy. And
that sounds like a blast.
My girls go too. And I had a credit from Wish. Wish.com.
I do.
I got scammed at Wish, and I don't know if you have a couple of minutes, I'll tell you the story. So Wish.com,
this is cool.
Wish.com had a really serious flaw on their site, and they didn't know it, and I figured it out. So I got a big Wish credit, so I get remote control cars for free now. But here, I'll tell you really quick what was happening. If let's say you have a Wish account, I have a Wish account. If I wanted to take over your account, yours, I would have to go, all I needed was your email. I don't even need to try to crack your password. No, not anymore. But at the time, I would go and type in, for example, your email would be brent@gmail.com. I would enter it and say, I want to change my email. And they would request, what is your new email? And then send me the option to change the password on your account.
That's incredible.
So
this whole conversation we've had about security, look how important it is.
Exactly. They would send the request to the new email, not to the existing one. And I mean, that's
unbelievable.
Unbelievable. It just tells you about safety right there. Yeah, so that started happening. And I mean, when I found it, I tried to alert them to it, and it took them a couple months to even acknowledge what I told them. They couldn't understand it, and then they did. And so anyway, I get remote monster trucks out of it.
Is it only redeemable in remote controlled monster trucks? Can you get other things too?
No. I got it's a wish credit, and I can use it on anything. I just picked monster trucks, and I got a few. And
why the heck not? That's great. So you drive them in the snow?
Yeah, 4x4, man. They actually have 2 electric motors. So one for the front wheels, one for the rear wheels, and then a little motor to steer the front wheels. And
that's amazing.
I'm really surprised with them. They climb the snow.
If I was 6 years old, I would go crazy for that.
And I'm 40, Brent. I can't control it.
It's for the kids. It's for the kids.
No. Exactly. All right, man. Nice to see you again. And
yeah, likewise.
We'll stay in touch. We'll keep everybody posted what's going on here.
Sure. Sounds good. Thanks for chatting.
Thanks, Brent.